Hello, and welcome to today's Search Engine Journal webinar. Hope you're having a great day, and we're thrilled to have you here with us. I'm joined by Dwayne Sprague of Shopper Approved and James Arnold of AnswerBase. And today, we're going to be talking about real-world SEO and how you can drive more conversions by learning how real people actually search, shop, and buy online. I don't have to tell you, maybe this is something you're experiencing, but most content might not be driving conversions because it doesn't really address how people actually search, or it's really may not be answering the questions that they're asking and kind of motivating them how real people buy. So today, Dwayne and James are going to show you how to easily understand real world shoppers, their intent, and how to create measurable, high converting content that increases your revenue. So first, my name is Heather, and I'm going to be your moderator here today. If you want to share any cool tidbits from today's learnings on social, please use hashtag SEJ webinars, plural with an S on the end. And with that, let's meet our guest, Dwayne James. Excited to have you here with us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourselves? Give us a little background.
Thank you. Yes, Dwayne Sprague. I also go by DJ, so that gets a little bit confusing. But if you want to find me on LinkedIn, Dwayne Sprague. I've been in marketing, advertising, PR, digital marketing, SEO, since early 2000s, over 35 years in advertising and PR itself. I've owned my own agency. I've been on the client side with companies like NASCAR, Kodak, the Utah Jazz. I've also worked on the client side with Hyundai, JD Power and Associates, Toyota, just a few household names, as well as obviously scads of smaller companies. But I've been on both sides of the desk. I've always been enamored with digital marketing and SEO, and obviously driving that high quality, high converting organic traffic, which we've all found to be the most fruitful and profitable. I am now CMO of Shopper Approved. I came here by way of being a client of the review world, where I was CMO of a national franchise. And that company had terrible online reviews. So one of the first things I did was hire a review company. We turned that around, and it dramatically changed the landscape of our leads, our conversions, and our revenue. So I've become a huge believer in the power of ratings and reviews and online reputation. So that's me in a nutshell. James.
Thanks, DJ. And I'm James Arnold. I co-founded AnswerBase. I have about 20 years of experience in the field. And AnswerBase started in about 2007, where we started with enterprise level customers. But then as we were able to see the value of the content that we were able to generate and distribute, that turned into servicing customers at all sizes. So yeah, looking forward to the discussion today, and pass it back to Lauren.
Perfect.
Thank you. Before we get started,
well, DJ, real quick, just let me do a little bit of housekeeping, and then I'm going to turn it right over to you.
Yes.
And I promise I'll make this super fast. So for our attendees, there's a Q&A box. So if you have questions, please put them in there. We've also got chat, so feel free to chat and ask questions, make comments with your peers or for the speakers here. You can upvote questions. If you see something you like, give it a little thumbs up. We'll know that that's important to more of you out there. And there is a closed captioning option. It's up in the top right corner. So if you need that, if you click that little button, we'll link to any tools or resources in the chat. They will also be in the email that you get after this. So today you will receive this full recording, your recap email, any resources. So watch for that. Again, use hashtag SEJ webinars if you want to share anything. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. Dwayne, James, it's all yours. See you at the Q&A.
Thanks, Heather. Before we get started, I'm just curious if you just in chat, just say client side or client if you're on the client side, or agency if you're on the agency side. I'd just love to get kind of a high level read on how many people are coming from client versus agency side. We have a huge audience today. Obviously, there's a huge interest in this topic, as there should be. What we're going to be doing ultimately is tying together content and SEO with conversion. And I want you to know also that we'll be following up with an email. and explaining how to get a white paper that I've been putting together that really dives more into detail on all the research that went into this, both on the SEO side, the Google algorithms from Panda to the most recent September update, and how all those updates align to what we're going to be talking to today, as well as the Google research on conversion, as well as other research on CRO, conversion rate optimization. Because ultimately what we want to do is paint the picture that there is a real connection between SEO and content and CRO, conversion rate optimization, and revenue. And they really shouldn't be seen as separate siloed items, because they can and should work together. Just building content for traffic without building content for conversion may be an exercise in futility. And that's something we'll talk about a little bit more. So look for that email. I'll explain how to get that white paper, which will give you much more detail than we could possibly go into here today to really flesh out the story, the research, and the science behind everything that's come to this point. And by the way, I do have a book coming out under the same title or very similar title as this webinar. So we'll let you know about that when that's ready. Okay, so takeaways today: how people actually search, shop, and buy online. A lot of this research, again, comes from Google and other research studies. How to win the entire buyer's journey with content that converts, and how to test your content ROI quickly. These are the things that we want you to take away and learn today. And again, we'll give you some more detail and specificity and the data behind this in the future white paper. So let's start out with the problem. The problem most people face with SEO. And by the way, this comes from talking to hundreds of our clients, people that we deal with thousands of e-commerce websites. And when I talk to website owners, managers, directors, et cetera, these are some of the concerns that they have with traditional SEO. A lot of effort goes into copying the competitor's content and then trying to outrank it. The question, however, is what's the value of that content? Is it driving revenue for your competitors? Is it driving conversions? Sure, we can measure traffic, but is it really driving sales and revenue? So oftentimes we spend a lot of time, money, and resources copying the competitors and not realizing that's not even driving the revenue that we want. So that's something we'll look at. Number two, a lot of SEO efforts are spent on high search volume, high funnel, short tail content that does not address the specific problems or questions that your shoppers are looking to resolve. Again, people go to Google with a question or a problem, and they're looking for an answer or a solution. And many times content is very high funnel. It's not necessarily answering a specific problem or solution. Therefore, it's not driving revenue or conversions. So this is another common issue with SEO and something we need to resolve. And then finally, number three, a lot of SEO efforts are measuring everything but revenue. They're measuring impressions, page position, links, traffic, but they're not measuring the one thing that matters the most. And what is the conversion rate and what is the ROI of that content? That is obviously critical, and that's what we want to get to the bottom of. So I'm sure by now, many or most of you have heard of the new August helpful content update, which was then basically overshadowed by the September 12th core update, which really gave teeth to the helpful content update. And then right behind that was the new product review update. But if you look at all three of them, they're really saying the same thing. Google wants to provide content that is useful and helpful to the consumer. Again, if you're not answering that question, you're not providing a solution, you're not providing quality content, then Google doesn't care and the consumer probably doesn't care either. And it certainly isn't going to drive conversions. So we have to think about putting ourselves in the mind of our consumer, of our shopper, of our target audience. What are they looking for? What are their problems? What are their questions? And if we can answer those with a quality, thoughtful, accurate answer, then Google's going to care a great deal about that, and so is the consumer. So traditionally, what we've done is we've gone to our sales teams and our customer support teams, et cetera, and we've asked them, so what are the questions that our customers have? What are the things that we're trying to solve for them? Well, that's helpful and that's useful and that works, but it's hard to scale. So as we get deeper into this, we're going to show you how we can help you automate that and scale that so you can bring more helpful content to the surface faster and start generating more traffic and more revenue. So this slide, I'm not going to read all these quotes, but basically what this is all saying from Moz, Search Engine Journal, SEMrush, Ahrefs, and others, of course. At the end of the day, what everybody's looking for is the answer to their question. And that's why they're going to search engines to begin with. So we've got to think about, again, finding out what those questions are, answering those, and then we're going to be relevant in the search results. And of course, we're going to be relevant for our audience. So think about questions, think about answers, and make sure that that's what we're driving toward, because that's what search engines want and that's what the consumer wants. So Google is used primarily to find the best answers to questions. So just dug out some data to kind of quantify that. There are over 321 million Google question searches per day in the US. And if we look at just adults 21 plus, that means every US adult is asking 1.6 questions per day in the US on Google. And 70% of YouTube video searches are how-tos, which of course is a question. So obviously people have a lot of questions and they're always looking for answers. So how is Google providing better answers? Well, again, if we look at the updates since Panda in 2011, all the way through RankBrain, Medic, BERT, Fred, the product review updates, there's been 9 of them now, helpful content update, and then of course the new September update, the core updates, the EAT update, they're all talking about quality content, quality backlinks, quality content, helpful content, content that is providing a solution. And so the days of just creating content for content's sake because it's trending or because the competitor's doing it, or gee, there's a lot of traffic around this particular topic, who cares? It's not really the traffic number, it's the traffic quality. It's the purchase intent of that traffic that matters far more than the sheer volume. And then, of course, Google has come out with products such as auto suggest feature, people also ask, or PAA, related searches, and then the new buyer's guides, which came out, I think it was in late January, early February of this year. Right now, it's just on mobile and it's in beta mode, but that's a buyer's guide to help the consumer find better answers to their product search queries. So again, all of this, when you look at it in the aggregate, is all about helping the consumer, making sure that your content and Google together are providing solutions to the shopper. So what's the common theme here? Well, we kind of said it. Google wants to find, rank, and serve higher quality, trusted content that answers the specific and the related and the popular questions related to the search. And that's where people also ask comes in, auto suggest, etc. They're just trying to say, look, here's your question. Here's some other related questions that other people have asked around that particular topic. Knock yourself out. And now let's give you the best answers to those questions. Yes, there'll be a recording. So survey question. How are you currently answering your customers' questions on your website? Are you using Q&A? Are you using FAQ? Are you using a chat feature? Do you have a resource center? Do you have blog articles, or none of the above? If you take a minute just to answer this, that would be fantastic. And we'll get a little read on how you're currently addressing your shoppers' needs.
So for most people, that should pop up like a pop-up. If it doesn't, you can find it under the polls. And so DJ, James, you guys can see them under there too. So far, you've got about 33% of people FAQs, and you've got 36 under blog articles, 36% saying blog articles. And then it's a mixture from there. And only 4% are saying none of the above.
Okay. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So about a third of you are using FAQ, which can also be translated to Q&A, relatively the same thing. So that's fantastic. Obviously, blog articles are great for the pillar content and the longer format answers to questions. So good to hear. Hats off. Okay, so what should you do now? Well, you want to use automated methodology to identify the high purchase intent questions that your customers are asking about your products, your categories, your company, your website, etc. And we'll dig into that. So Shopper Approved partnered with Answer-Based Q&A. We have a highly automated Q&A tool that will help you identify the questions being asked. It will aggregate the questions being asked by people in real time on your website. It's going to bring the current customer questions to the surface. It's going to scour the search engines to find the questions regularly being asked about specific products on Google. And it will scour the competitor sites looking for the questions being asked about the products you're selling. So it's going to pull all that information together, aggregate it, and serve it up to you as here's the questions, here's the answers being currently provided. Obviously, at that point, you're going to have the opportunity to create better, more accurate, more specific answers to win that featured snippet box. There's another great tool called Answer the Public. I don't know how many people have used this, but this is out of the UK. Neil Patel recently purchased it. It's a great way to put in your brand name, your website URL, your product categories, your specific products, and see what's being asked in the Google Also Ask box. It'll give you the who, the what, the how, the when, the where, etc. You can then download that into a CSV file, and you can then use that to generate additional Q&A. And that will, of course, drive a lot more search opportunities, a lot more search volume, because naturally, the more questions you are answering, the more opportunities you have to surface in those organic search results. So real world SEO. I got this, I kind of made this term up after looking at what Google researched a couple years ago in 2020. They call it Decoding Decisions, Making Sense of the Messy Middle. And this is a very extensive study that they did with over 310,000 model search results. And they really dug into what are the search modifiers that people are using when they're looking to buy a product. They also looked into what is the behavioral psychology or behavioral science behind the decisions once they got to those websites. So we're not going to be able to have time to get into the behavioral science side of it very much today. And that's what will be in that white paper. But I do want to talk about these search modifiers that they recognize as being super, super common. Like this is pretty much how people are generally searching when they're starting out their process of finding the right fit, the right answer, the right product, the right solution. They do recognize, Google that is, does recognize the conversion funnel, but they kind of represent it more like this, kind of this squiggly mess, and this is what they call the messy middle. And that's because people don't necessarily follow a linear pattern. They don't necessarily start with a high level and then end up with a price. They'll kind of bounce around here and there, back and forth, but ultimately, they're going to cover most of these search modifiers. So they may start out with what's the best product in this category? What's the best solution? What's the best answer for this? What's the best idea for this? Then they might look at what are the top fives? What's the the top 10 running shoes? They might look at reviews of those top 10 running shoes. They might look for the difference between this product versus that product. And then, of course, once they get farther down, they're going to look at price, discount codes, who has the best deal, et cetera. But these are the areas you have to cover. You've got to cover the top funnel, the best, the ideas, the difference between, and then, of course, more the bottom funnel, the reviews, the price, the discounts, et cetera. So these are what we call the search modifiers. They kind of look like this, top to bottom. Ideas, broad search, best. They're looking for the best quality, the best value among the category of solutions. You're also going to look at the difference between, or what we call versus, product A versus product B. I want to know how they shake out. What are the features? What are the benefits? What are the pros? What are the cons? Think about yourself. When you do research for a new product or a solution or something you never bought before, you're probably going to want to do comparison shopping, right? this versus that. I want to know the differences, the pros, the cons. So that's very important content to have. And it's important that we understand that we can't just talk about our product, because people want to talk about the competitive product as well. And if they can do it on your website and not have to leave your website to do that, then you can capture that traffic. Of course, reviews. People want to know the social proof. What are people saying? What do they like? What don't they like? How are they using it, etc. They want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. People love reviews. They love the social proof. That's critical to conversion. Google has identified that themselves, that without reviews, you don't have that social proof. You don't have that confidence, and people will probably find a product that does have the reviews. And then finally, best deal, discount codes, where's the cheap price, etc. So now here's how we own the entire buyer journey, kind of backing up a little bit and also incorporating some research and information from a great book by Marcus Sheridan called They Ask, You Answer. Again, it's all about Q&A. And well over a decade of research and testing has gone into finding out what people are looking for. What are their questions? Regardless of industry, B2B, B2C, does not matter. They typically have the same questions for any company or any type of company, like say B2B or B2C. So it kind of goes like this. Top of the funnel, broad solutions, what is, how to, ideas for. Mid funnel, they're now kind of looking at the solution or the product category specifically. So you're going to want to look at best in class, top 5, top 10, etc. And then more granular, how to choose, what to look for, or the opposite of that, what to avoid, problems with. So there's two sides to this coin. Some people want to look at how to choose, and some people want to look at what to avoid. And again, if you can have both sides of that content strategy, you can get obviously a lot more traffic, because you've got the people that look for the negative and the people that look for the positive and the people that look for both. So if you address both, you're obviously going to double your traffic. And again, people want to leave your website trying to find the answer they're looking for. The whole idea to conversion is keep them on your website. Give them what they're looking for. If they have to go somewhere else to find it, you just lost a sale. So make sure that you're providing everything that your target audience wants and needs, is looking for on your site. Bottom funnel, now we're getting into specific products, comparisons, difference between, versus, etc. Reviews, obviously, and then cost and price. So from a broad swatch, this is the type of content that you want to have to own the entire buyer journey. So now we're going to talk about content and SEO efforts, starting with helpful answers to real customer questions. We're going to turn it over to James from AnswerBase, and he's going to talk about Q&A specifically.
All right, thanks a lot, DJ. And what I'll do is dig into some of these things that DJ's been talking about, show some examples, and just have an informative discussion about it. So we need to ask ourselves an honest question of, are we creating content more for search engines than for real people? And for many of the people that we talk to, typically there's a minimum impression threshold that they set, and they pay attention to everything above that threshold. So key phrases, groups of keywords, etc., as well as competitor content that gets over a certain amount of impressions. But what that is disregarding is whether that content is engaged with and leading to conversion. So what does Google say we should focus on? Well, it was spelled out in the helpful content update. I recommend that you read the blog post that they posted about that on August 18th. But they have two main points there. Focus on people-first content and create content for people and not for search engines. So the big answer here is helping real people with the content you create. And what happens when you do that is you reduce the amount of time and money and resources that you're spending on the content that might have high impressions, might be covered by your competitors, but it's got little to no engagement and conversion. You can optimize and expand on topics that do have the higher engagement and conversion, and you start hitting those long tail results that may get less impressions, but the intent is very high, so that they engage and convert at a high level. And when you do that, what you see is that potential customers find the helpful answers they're looking for to their very specific questions, and that leads to happy customers and happy merchants. So the definition of a happy business is you drive more traffic, you convert more customers, and you'll see that each customer has a higher average lifetime value as they find the helpful answers on your site. And customers are asking these questions all over the buyer journey. DJ referenced this, but all the way to problems that they have that might lead to a product, the best product in a particular category, the reviews about a product, all the way down to discount codes for a specific site. So they're asking all these questions throughout their journey. And the good news is that you can or should know what these questions already are. Because if you're converting customers currently, those customers went through a journey to make that final purchase. And the questions that they asked along those journey or along that journey can prove to you what converts. And then you can overlap that with what questions are regularly being asked on search engines. And that's where the gold is where those two overlap. So DJ showed this slide before. The traditional method of accomplishing this is every time you read a blog post about content strategy, there's always a blurb in there about ask your sales team, ask your customer support team, see what the common questions are. Also ask yourself the question, are we actually really doing that? And are we starting with that as the source of understanding where our customers and potential customers' questions and needs really are? And the good news is that technology can make this a lot easier. So by engaging people on your pages, on your product pages, on your product category pages, you can give them the option to ask their questions. And of course, you want to make sure that that's managed automatically when you can. So you should be auto-suggesting answers from existing product information, from existing specifications, from the product Q&A content, of course, and even ratings and reviews. So you will see that Amazon, when you start asking a question on their product page, it will auto-suggest from the product information, from the product Q&A, and even information in the reviews. Okay, so that's of course the goal, convert the customers that are coming to you already. Allow new questions to be easily submitted, answer those effectively. But most importantly, make sure you're monitoring all of this. It's possible, it should be done. You can know the questions that are being asked and which ones are leading to conversion. You can also fill in the content gaps. So you can understand what your competitors are answering about specific products, what specific Q&A has been addressed on their pages when they're selling the same or similar products to your own. What questions are regularly being asked on Google about your products or product categories, and about specific products, understanding where that demand is, product questions that are proven to convert, and even product questions that are posed by engaged customers, because not everybody who starts asking a question in those forums actually posts. Many people, they're like, oh, I don't want to put my email address in another site. So you still should be capturing that question. You can still be fed with what those questions are. It's very valuable data for you to have. And you can supplement your existing customer engagements. If you're a high traffic site, you can focus on the questions that have a proven demand on Google related to your products and look to supplement that, your user-generated content with that proven demand content that serves more than that one customer. And if you're a low traffic site, it's a great opportunity to understand what the full content demand is so that you don't have to wait to build traffic to understand what the engagement and the content demand is. You can simply dump your expertise into valuable content, and you can be providing the answers to those questions. And what this turns into is it's better for customers and it's better for businesses. You want to make it easy on Google to find and lead the user to this content. So no more just, hey, we got them to our product page, high five. Well, if the customer gets there and they're stuck at the top of the product page and they don't actually find the answer that they're looking for, that's a problem. That's a problem with conversion. That's a problem for bounce rates. So you can lead them directly to the answer and then lead them to the conversion. Give the customer what they're looking for first, and then build that trust, show them that you're valuable through the content, and convert. And through this, you'll experience better positioning on Google, you'll experience a higher click-through rate, and reduce bounce rates. Also featured snippets. So you can see this blurb from SEMrush here. Content answering a certain question is more engaged and has a higher chance of getting into featured snippets. Google wants to provide the users with answers. That's what they're there for. That's what they're focused on. It's not an accident that the people also asked is many times right under the top results. They know the intent of the customer and they want to feed them the answer. So you can provide the answers and you can start taking those positions, especially for those long tail questions. And you may even find yourself advertising for specific answers. So by tracking the ROI of specific questions, specific answers, and the fact that you know that they convert at a certain clip, it makes financial sense to start advertising for those that are high performance Q&As. So that all of this gives you the ability to target like that. And the overall results of publishing helpful Q&A content, we've seen it up to a 35% increase in impressions in Google, 40% higher position in organic searches, up to 5.5 times higher click-through rate to the Q&A content. And overall traffic increase up to 2 times. We've seen merchants double the traffic to their stores by creating consistent, helpful content and answering their customers' questions. And most importantly, an average lifetime value of up to 2 times higher than their normal Google traffic. And that really feeds into, you're showing the users what they want, you're showing your expertise, you're building trust through that, you're converting them, and you're keeping them, and they're coming back. So with that, I'll turn it back to DJ, who will talk a little bit about how Shopper Approve's accomplishing some of these things.
Thank you, James. This is really obviously critical information, especially for SEOs. And just a kind of a quick purview of the feedback. It looks like about 60% of you are on the agency side. So you're probably doing SEO and or PPC work. So I just wanted to point out this slide again, because this is really important. We obviously are a rating review company. We collect Google seller ratings. We're a Google partner. We're also a Google partner for product reviews. So our product reviews and our seller ratings are both syndicated to Google to populate in your Google ads, your organic search results, your product listing ads, your Google shopping, etc. So with one vendor, we can provide the rich snippets, the ratings and reviews right here, as well as obviously the content for the ads and the content for the featured snippets and the organic search results. So I know we've always thought about FAQ or Q&A. It's kind of a nice little thing to have on the website. And we've thought about range reviews as a nice little thing to have on the website. But the reality is, from the behavioral science side, when you combine these, you're creating an SEO and a CRO kind of superpower, because this is the content that the consumer wants to see, and it's the social proof they need to have the confidence to click and convert. So we're combining SEO and CRO in one tool set. Just wanted to make sure that we kind of really understood how important that was, especially for all of you on the agency side. We work a lot with agencies to provide these solutions for their clients to help drive more organic traffic, better click-through rates, and more online visibility. So how is Shopper Approved addressing both the real-world search and conversion? Well, if you look at this page, this is an actual client product page, and you're probably thinking, like most people do, that looks a lot like Amazon. It's by design. It does, in fact, look a lot like Amazon. We have the ratings and reviews right here, followed by the Q&A, and then the website security transaction seal right above or below the add to cart or buy now button, what we call the moment of truth. This is when the shopper is deciding, gee, do I continue? Is this site secure? Is my credit card information safe? What's going on here? Who are these people? Do I have confidence? So we've modeled what we call the traffic and conversion stack, or the TNC stack, to look like Amazon. Why? We did a lot of original research. We studied 600 US adults, and we got a 95% confidence factor in that statistic that found that 91% of US online shoppers would rather buy from a website that displayed this information in this format than the exact same product page without this information. This information being the product ratings, reviews, the Q&A, and the website security seal. So when consumers see this, particularly in this format, they have a higher confidence factor. In fact, many of them have said, when we asked them, well, why did you choose this format versus the one without? They said, well, it looks like Amazon. I'm comfortable with Amazon. I'm confident in Amazon. I understand the user experience. That's the information I'm used to seeing. That's the information I'm used to clicking on, and that's helpful content. So this is really taking all of that research that Amazon has studied, which has now been adopted by Walmart and Best Buy and Target and Lowe's and Home Depot and all the leading marketplaces, using virtually the exact same layout. Why? Because it works, because the consumer is comfortable with it. They don't have to think about it. If you've ever read the book, Don't Make Me Think, which is one of the great original CRO books, it's all about making things easy, making people have confidence in your website, and they don't have to think twice about it. So that's what we've done. We've identified the friction points and removed or mitigated them by giving them the content that they're looking for that converts. So again, circling back to Q&A, we help automatically answer and track the customer's questions. So you're going to be able to pull in the questions and answers in the product informations and specifications, PDFs, product specs, guides, etc. Product Q&A content. You can bring in your FAQ. So the 33% of you that have an FAQ section, that FAQ can be converted into Q&A using our Q&A tool, and now it will be search optimized. Problem with most Q&A is it's a standalone web page. Google has a hard time indexing that and seeing that as the best answer for a featured snippet position. With our Q&A tool, each question and each answer has its own subfolder, its own H1 title tags. So it's highly search optimized. Google recognizes it, they index it, they serve it, at the top of the search results because it's designed for search. Most Q&A is just a static page. It's really not designed for search results. It's great once people get there, but it's also usually hard to navigate because there's usually not a search function integrated into that. So with a search function, it's user-friendly, and it's also search engine friendly. And then, of course, we can answer new questions. So as James said earlier, anytime somebody has a new question that's not been asked before, that's captured, and now you can answer that. And then last but not least, very important, is you can track the conversions. You can track the ROI from these questions. Now think about this. So you have an idea for a piece of pillar content or a blog post. You can test that idea using Q&A. So you can take 40 to 60 words from that idea for that pillar content, put that into Q&A, and see how much traffic it generates, see how that drives conversion. And that will be a really good test before you spend a lot of time, money, and energy creating a 8,000 word pillar piece of content without even knowing if it's going to drive traffic or drive conversions. So this is a great way to test your way into that long form content, but also, of course, optimize that shorter content. Then, of course, know what questions drive CRO, conversion rate, and SEO, organic traffic, content recommendations that are fed from the product and product category questions and answers, what's being asked on the competitor sites, what's proven to convert, what's being posed as questions on your website, and then what's regularly being asked on Google. This is a gold mine because it's pulling all this information together automatically and helping you really identify the content you need to create based on what's already being asked. And also, think about that tool. People also ask, also a helpful tool that can then be fed into the Q&A to really drive more long tail search content. And again, think about long tail, because as people get further down that conversion funnel, they're asking longer and longer tail search questions because they're getting more and more specific. And it's really, the gold is in the long tail. There's an old saying, riches and niches. Well, if you can own the niche searches and own that long tail content, because that's where the buyers are, that's where the conversions take place, then you're going to make money. If it's all about short tail, high funnel, and you're not answering those bottom funnel, long tail searches, then you're going to get traffic, but you're not necessarily going to get CRO and revenue. So wrapping it up, the real takeaways today is we're going to help you automatically identify what your customers are asking and then what they're converting from. We're going to publish that information in Q&A format that organic search engines can find and index and serve. Make sure that your visitors can easily see that content when they visit your site. I myself have done lots of searches for products, saw the answer, clicked on it, went to the website, and it took me to the homepage. It did not answer the question. Then they want me to put in the exact same search criteria, year, make, model, trim level, et cetera, to find that product on their site. Well, I already did that in Google. Why would I do that again? So I typically bounce and go to the next site because I'm just looking for the answer. I'm not looking to start my search all over again. And this is a very common mistake. As James said earlier, if you're not giving the answer to that question on the product page as they expected to see, again, don't make me think, then it's all for naught. You've basically lost that trust, that credibility, and that conversion. And then next, engage visitors and auto-suggest answers from product descriptions, specs, and Q&A. And of course, optimize conversion tracking to efficiently uncover new content opportunities in the future. And again, in a follow-up email, I'll let you know how to get that white paper, and it'll give you more details and the research behind this presentation today. There's a lot more to it, but time being constrained, we can't get into all the nuances.
That was good stuff. Always, DJ. Thank you. Thank you, James. So we do have some good questions, so we'll get to those. One of the things, as you sit there and you were talking, going through those takeaways, I just always wonder, as marketers, we should always be putting ourselves into the consumer's shoes, and also think about how you do your searching. Think about what you expect on those pages. It's kind of the same thing. All right. Definitely got some good questions. So if you have more questions, we have some time to get those in. So Pam asked, what is your suggested method for answering the customer's questions?
When somebody asks me this, I always say, pretend you just went into a retail store and you asked a question. What would you like to hear back? If somebody gives you a one-word answer, might be a little bit rude. You want to know that the person knows what they're talking about and give them that good response. Communicate, obviously, the answer to their question. Communicate any helpful information that supports your answer. And we recommend at least 40 to 60 words because that's a typical featured snippet. But we don't recommend that you drown them with a bunch of useful information. You don't want to give too much information either, because that loses them. So think about how you would like to be treated. Answer a question with that. I really recommend reading that Google Helpful Content Update. It points out the fact that Google doesn't care if you create long content. They just want the right content for the search query. So that would be my suggestion for answering questions. Display expertise based off your experience and knowledge on the topic, and that's what Google's looking for at the end of the day, is the most knowledgeable answer.
I would also add to that, if you follow Google's channel Think with Google, which is very popular. They have a lot of content there, a lot of research, etc. But I like to kind of twist that and say, think like Google versus think with Google. If you think like Google, just like James said, it's all about the helpful content update, because you've got to think like you think. I'm just looking for great content that addresses my needs, solves my problems, gives me the answer to my question. I'm not looking for this fluffy content that just talks about you're the greatest, you're the best, you're the only in the world. That doesn't really do me any good. I'm really looking for helpful content. And we've got to always think about the consumer first. If we put the consumer first and create content by humans for humans, as they so appropriately point out in the helpful content update, then we're going to win the day. In fact, one of the Google representatives said, we really hate it when people talk about algorithm updates. What we really want them to talk about is how to create better content, not worrying about how to game the algorithm, but simply how to solve the needs of the market and of their audience. If they think more about that and less about trying to game the latest algorithm update, then they're going to win.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about content on our site because they're so closely intertwined. So kind of have like a dual question from Ashish and then Mark. So Ashish asks if there's a way to get volume from the answer the public or the questions the people are asking. And then Mark is asking if there's an efficient way to determine which questions to go after since they don't assign search volume. So is there a way to find search volume? And if there's not, how do you determine how to prioritize?
Excellent question. Yes. So you can download that CSV file. You can convert that into an Excel file if you like, and then you can run that against SEMrush. And SEMrush will give you, where there's enough volume to measure, will give you the volume. It'll also obviously give you, so you can put this all in a spreadsheet. So you'll have the search term in one column, you can put the search volume in another, and then you can put the ranking difficulty in another. And so you can see, here's the term, here's the volume, here's the ranking difficulty. And that'll allow you to prioritize or deprioritize content and stack rank. But again, do think about, as you are looking at those questions and answers, think about, what does my shopper need to convert? There may be a lot of volume here, and it may be even relatively easy to rank for, but is that a question that's going to drive conversion? Because again, we talked about in the beginning, we want to marry SEO and CRO. And if we're always thinking about conversion and content together, then we're going to create better content. So don't just look at the volume, don't just look at the ranking difficulty, also look at, is this important to my customers? Have I heard this question before from my customers?
And if I could piggyback on that a bit, again, on that Google post, you'll see one of their bullet points that says, what are your existing audience asking, or what are they coming to you? What information are they asking from you? And so the beauty of user-generated content is you have a customer looking at a product or a product category, and there's the demand for information from that one customer. So you know that there's a little bit of a demand. Or if you're able to pull in, like our tool does, the competitor questions that have been asked about that same product, you know that there's customer demand for the information. And then once you effectively answer that, and you have an incentive to answer that for the first customer who asks, because they're ready to purchase if you give them the right answer. And then that's where we feed in those content recommendations of all the questions that you have been asked by your customers. These are the ones with regular search volume on Google. And then you can appropriately invest time based off of the volume. So we kind of have a bite, snack, meal approach to creating content. The bite is the first customer who asks. You don't invest a ton of time, just appropriate time. Well, when you realize that question's being asked 300 times a month on Google, then optimize that a bit. When you start to see that it's actually converting customers, then it's worth going after an 800-word article. So you can step your way into the content creation, but by starting with the actual customers that you're servicing right now, there's always a return on investment for the activity. And a lot of times that's what's missing is you're going after the volume and you don't have confidence necessarily that the return on investment is there for the content that you're creating.
Yeah. You could even take a pillar and cluster approach. So, for example, you can see some thematic questions that are driving a lot of volume and conversions, and that can become now a pillar piece, and you can create cluster pieces around that with additional questions and answers, and create a nice, robust 3, 4, 5,000 word pillar piece with its appropriate cluster pieces to really own that genre of questions and answers, if that makes sense. Back to that meal approach. 7-course meal in this case.
All right, well, let's see. Julie asks, so an SEO consultant told them that their FAQs were bad for search because Google wouldn't know what to rank the page for. Is that true?
Depends how it's configured. But I did mention before that most FAQ pages are just one page with question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. And many times Google doesn't even know what product or category or company that's associated with because they're not search optimized. So having FAQ, again, is old school. If it's just a static page with question and answer, it really has to be search optimized. And each of those questions and answers have to have its own subfolder and H1 title tag so that Google knows what to do with it and where it belongs. So having FAQ on your website, depending on how it's structured, may be helpful for the consumer once they're there, but 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be helpful for search results because it's not optimized. James,
piggyback on that a bit. You know, we've seen the best performance out of having the Q&A integrated into either a product category page or a product page, or even on the bottom of blog posts to ask follow-up questions. And it gives the Q&A content importance based off of what the parent content is and the content that's leading to it. So if you have an FAQ that's in the bottom of your footer that people might click on someday, that's Google's going to give it the importance that you give it. If they see that it's just something on your site, I wouldn't expect a lot of traction from that. But a question about a particular topic or about a product where you have effectively leading both users and Google to that content, that's going to perform a lot better for you. And then FAQs, I mean, let's be honest, if you see a list of 20 FAQs, do you really want to read 20 FAQs to try to find make sure that you have an engagement option on top so that people can actually ask their question, and then you let them know whether you have an answer or not. If you do, great, they get their answer, they're satisfied. If you don't, let them post it so that you can address it for them and then for everybody else in the future that wants that same answer.
And adding on to that from an SEO perspective, with our Q&A tool, you can build in deep links to other content. So for example, you have a 40, 60 word answer in Q&A, but you can have a read more or see more link to a full article on that answer that gives more in-depth specifics, background, context, etc. So now you've got a deep linking strategy, which is going to help Google see all the related content to that Q&A. And of course, the long article will also link back to Q&A as well. So you've got a nice deep linking, cross-linking SEO strategy that will also help both engagement, but also SEO.
Great. So we might have time for 2 more questions, but let's take Chandler's. So Chandler says, if you don't have a direct buying trigger on a particular page, how do you track the ROI of that piece of content, particularly if you're not an e-commerce brand?
Yeah, so we have conversion tracking, and that would be true whether the conversion is a is a purchase of a product, or whether you're generating a lead, or whatever the next step. You have to ask yourself, what are you trying to get the customer to do? I think I saw a question about if you don't sell the products, but you just have multiple locations around the country, what is the action that you're looking for the customer to take? And you can lead them to take that action after they get their answer. And then, as long as they're doing that digitally, if they're filling out a form or something like that, you can track that and get that information back as far as the conversion and the conversion value that you set to that action being taken. So it doesn't necessarily have to apply only if you can buy now. But you can just, what is the next action you want the user to take, and then through our conversion tracking, you'd be able to track that back to the specific piece of content.
Could be a form fill, it could be a next page, whatever that action is. Great question.
That was a good one. All right, so let's see. So Brandon asks, should you use questions asked on Amazon for your own DTC site, so your own direct-to-consumer site?
Sure. So we will feed you with the content demand. What a question on Amazon about a product is, it's a request for information. So you've either provided the information or you've not. So we give different calls to actions that you can take. You can update your product details or summaries to make sure that you've filled in that content gap. If you want to clean up the question and make it a Q&A post, you certainly can. What Google's looking for is the best information for any given question. So people blog about a lot of the same stuff. They might phrase it in different ways, but everybody's trying to copy competitor content. There's a reason, they're trying to create topics that are already covered. They just want to cover it better in a better optimized manner. So it's not a bad thing that you give the best answer to a question out there about a specific product. We wouldn't recommend that you try to duplicate the content and copy the question and answer. That's not going to perform for you. That's not a good thing. But for you, understanding what the demand for content is from the consumers is extremely valuable. And that's your opportunity to dump your original expertise into the answer and make sure that you guys have the best answer out there for each question.
Yep.
Perfect. And with that, I think we'll close. Any questions that we didn't get to, we'll make sure that we get them over to DJ and James. But I want to thank you both for being here with us. So before we sign off, DJ, James, let the people know where to find you.
Thank you very much. Shopperapproved.com. You can see all of our products, Q&A, ratings and reviews, website security. I'm also on LinkedIn, DJ or Dwayne DJ Sprague on LinkedIn. You can also email me at dj@shopperapproved.com.
And James Arnold again, and you can get in touch with us at AnswerBase. It's answerbase.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. Just put in James Arnold AnswerBase and you'll find me. So.
Awesome. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. Everybody out there, thank you for joining us. We'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye, all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.